On the 11th of July, Poland remembers. But in 2026, this is no longer only history. This film does not ask today's Ukraine to inherit guilt. It asks for truth. Ukraine has the right to defend itself against Russian aggression. Ukraine has the right to honor courage, bury its soldiers, and protect its independence. Poland knows what invasion means. Poland knows what occupation means. That is why Poland stood with Ukraine when survival was at stake. But solidarity is not silence. The name of the UPA is not an empty historical symbol for Polish families. It leads back to Volhynia, to burned villages, to murdered civilians, to graves without names. This film does not recreate the crime. It follows what the crime left behind. A child's shoe, a rosary in ash, a button in the soil, a name still waiting for DNA. Not for revenge, for truth.
Volhynia burns, not only in fire, in silence, in soil, in names still waiting to return. Not for revenge, for truth.
Sunday morning, 43. They walk to prayer through fields and trees. No battle line, no soldier's drum, just village roads and church bells numb.
A mother's hand, a father's door, a child's shoe left on the floor.
A table turned, a rosary burned, a home that never saw them return.
They were not numbers, they were not claims. They were families, they had names.
And if you ask why Poland cries, look where the nameless crosses rise.
Some crimes should not be shown, but they must be understood. The silence in the room still speaks.
The ashes still remember what was done.
The tools were ordinary,
the cruelty was not.
The village kept the wound.
The earth kept what history forgot.
We remember, not for revenge but true.
We remember
every name, every grave.
Do not call them heroes
while the dead still wait.
We remember, not for hatred but life.
We remember what silence tried to hide.
Do not raise a banner
where the children have no names.
Volhynia burns, Volhynia waits. Choose the grave, not the banner over the dead.
Some will say, leave the past behind, but graves without names are not behind.
Some will say history must move on,
but how can it move when the dead are gone?
A bone in the earth, a button in clay, a medallion found after decades away.
A sample marked,
a number sealed,
a name still waiting to be revealed. This is not politics,
this is not rage.
This is a child
without a page.
This is a mother beneath the ground.
This is a village without a sound.
And if you bless the name that burned,
what lesson has the future learned?
Do not call it honor
while the graves are still unmarked.
Do not call it memory
if it leaves the victims dark.
A banner above an unnamed grave
is not honor, it is shame.
If your freedom needs their silence, then your freedom stands on bones. We remember,
not for revenge but truth.
we remember every name, every grave,
Do not call them heroes.
while the dead still wait. We remember,
Not for hatred but light.
we remember what silence tried to hide.
Do not raise a banner
Where the children have no names. Volhynia burns, Volhynia burns,
Volhynia waits.
Volhynia waits.
Choose the grave, not the banner over the dead.
Poland does not ask Ukraine to inherit guilt. Poland asks Ukraine not to inherit denial. Truth is not anti-Ukrainian. Memory is not Russian propaganda. A grave is not a weapon. A name is not an attack. But no friendship can be built by asking the victims to stay silent. No reconciliation can grow over bones without a name. And no nation should call them heroes, while mothers lie unnamed beneath the soil.
We remember,
Not for revenge but truth.
we remember.
Every name, every grave,
Do not call them heroes.
while the dead still wait.
We remember, not for hatred but light. We remember,
What silence tried to hide.
do not raise a banner
Where the children have no names.
Volhynia burns, Volhynia waits.
The earth still speaks. The truth still wakes.
Not for revenge,
For truth,
not for hatred,
for graves,
not against a nation.
against the lie.
The dead do not ask for war.
They ask not to be buried twice.
A name,
A grave,
a truth no state has the right to bury.
Volhynia burns.
And Poland remembers.
Some will say, leave history to historians. But this is not only history. The past is what happened to Polish civilians in 1943. The present is an official decision in 2026 to name a Ukrainian military unit after the heroes of the UPA. The present is a family still waiting for a grave, a DNA result, a name. Some will say, speaking about Volhynia helps Russia. No. What helps hostile propaganda is giving Moscow a wound to exploit, and then asking Poland to stay silent about that wound. Responsible allies should not turn memory into humiliation and then call silence unity. Some will say, Poland does not understand Ukrainian history. But understanding Ukrainian history does not require accepting the humiliation of Polish memory. Ukraine has its story of resistance against Moscow. Poland knows that story matters. But no anti-Soviet symbol becomes innocent if it also leads Polish families back to burned villages, murdered civilians, and unmarked graves. Some will say, Poland also wronged Ukrainians. Yes, Ukrainian suffering must not be denied. Operation Vistula was a forced deportation carried out by the communist authorities. It was a wound. It was later condemned by the Polish Senate. But Poland does not honor the executors of Operation Vistula as national heroes. That is the standard Poland asks from Ukraine. Not inherited guilt, not revenge. The same moral standard. Name the crime. Bury the dead. Stop honoring the name that leads the families of the murdered back to the place where the graves are still waiting. There were Ukrainians who saved Poles. There were Ukrainians who warned neighbors, hid children, refused murder, and paid for their courage. They are the bridge. They are the names worth honoring. Truth is not anti-Ukrainian. Memory is not Russian propaganda. A grave is not a weapon. A name is not an attack. This is not against a nation. It is against the lie. Poland cannot be expected to bury its own dead in silence. The dead do not ask for revenge. They ask for a name, a grave, and a truth no state has the right to bury.